There was one when I was in high school that involved a video, enormous big cameras like this that had cassette tapes on them, of, people taking their medicine for their glaucoma that was caught on video.
Welcome to NewsBeast. Happy Tuesday. We've got Michael Moynihan and Abby Pesta in the house. Good morning.
Good morning.
You have a great story, Newsweek International, about one Savannah Dietrich of Louisville, Kentucky. Notice how I pronounced that.
Very good. Louisville.
Louisville.
That's right.
Hometown of Hunter S. Thompson, Cassius Clay, and now Savannah Dietrich.
I'm impressed.
Tell us what's going on, because it's a fascinating story involving a young woman speaking out after being sexually assaulted via Twitter, and the cops trying to come down on her.
Yeah, it's a wild story. A teen girl got into legal trouble for tweeting the names of two boys who sexually assaulted her at a party, and it all started when she had a house party. Her parents were away, the kids were drinking, an older friend brought some alcohol. She passed out, and the two boys thought it would be a good idea to take her clothes off, take off her bra, take off her underwear, stick their fingers in her vagina, and document it with their cell phones. So she found out a couple months later when someone finally told her, these boys are showing naked pictures of you. So she took them to court, and then she faced a whole new problem, which is the court ordered her not to talk about the crime. So that's when she took to Twitter. She blasted out their names. She sent about 10 furious tweets, and then the boys' lawyers tried to hold her in contempt of court. So she could have gone to jail while the boys wouldn't.
Michael, what about the First Amendment here, pal?
No, this woman, first of all, it seems a bit cheap to be flattering somebody that you work with, but it's a fantastic story and everyone should read it. Harrowing story, too. This girl, I say woman, she's
16.
really
She
16
was
years
16,
old, she's a girl, is beyond being, exceptionally brave, is a wonderful hero of free speech, too.
Yeah.
Because it's important to note, and I'm reading back in the story a couple of times, like, what have I missed here? Like, did they cop a plea? And then it's like, there's photographs, they've admitted it to the police. These guys are, sex criminals. There's no other way of putting it. And to say that you can't talk about them, and you can't let's protect them after she's been sort of so publicly violated and privately violated, is a total outrage. But it was also good and reassuring, as a civil libertarian as I am, that the ACLU is involved and a lot of people are picking up this case, and Newsweek International too. So,
it is.
But terrifying stuff.
Yeah, well, the ACLU, didn't actually know about it no one knew about it until after she tweeted. That was what was interesting, she was getting railroaded by the courts. The judges said it's a matter of confidentiality in juvenile court, that you can't talk about what happens during the court proceedings. That may be true, but she was the victim of a crime. She had firsthand knowledge of what happened to her. So she's allowed to talk about what happened to her. But yeah, it wasn't until she tweeted that anyone knew what was going on.
Well, and certainly, history's full of examples of people not knowing about crimes that occur until the victim speaks out. But here you almost have an inversion of a principle, which is the victim's right to privacy, which would seem to be the genesis of some of these laws. So how come the disconnect between the common sense intention of these laws and then all of a sudden focusing on her and trying to shut her up from speaking out?
Well, she believes that the court was trying to protect the boys. They were also 16. They went to a prestigious all-boys Catholic academy, Trinity. It turned out later on her legal team found out that the prosecutor had gone to the same school, so the guy who's supposed to be on her side, she believes was on the side of the boys. He offered them a deal. She says the prosecutor didn't even tell her he had offered them a deal. Now, he denies all of this, but it just, it became very murky, and her feeling is that the boys, they were trying to protect the boys.
And where does this stand right now? Where are we in the process towards justice, however slow and convoluted this is?
Well, in the end, when the boys' lawyers tried to hold her in contempt of court, that's when the headlines started to get out, and it was just total outrage. The contempt charge was dropped. She started lobbying for a stiffer sentence for them because they weren't going to jail, they were getting community service, and their records could be completely expunged. And so in the end, she got a stiffer sentence for them. Their records can't be totally expunged. The felony can be downgraded to a misdemeanor after a few years if they stay out of trouble. But it was a year-long battle. Her team tried to get both the prosecutor and the judges removed from the case. It just became a huge, outrageous debacle.
Michael, how do you see the Twitter tech aspect of all this?
Look, the tech aspect is sort of twofold. And the one thing I'm thinking when reading this is, I'm incredibly old and creaky. I mean, I graduated high school.
We were going to mention that to you at lunch, but
I
it's
graduated
okay.
high school in 1992. So, you
Getting a
know,
Walker for Christmas.
these controversies, there was one when I was in high school that involved video, you know, enormous big cameras like this that had cassette tapes in them, of, you know, people taking their medicine for their glaucoma that was caught on video. But now it's something totally different, and I see this in two ways, is the horror that this girl has to go through, these people passing around photos and so easily amongst the lacrosse team of what they're doing to her, which is so sort of, you know, vomit-inducing. But the amazing thing about it is it also holds these kids responsible. I mean, there's obviously these prosecutors and these people like 50 hours of community service don't really care much about this. You have the photographic evidence. On the other hand, this is a very sort of small silver lining, but it does prove all this stuff that she wouldn't have known otherwise by being passed out. That said, you know, this whole thing is a story of technology, of like the photographs of her when they're passed out and these guys being unbearably scummy, and then the fact that she's wreaking her revenge that no one will allow her. By taking to Twitter and saying, "Screw you guys! You sexually assaulted me, and here's
the evidence."
Right.
Exactly.
And she also confronted the boys once she realized what they had done. She confronted them via text. It was fascinating.
Yeah.
She's busy confronting them.
And the police have all those.
Yeah, and they eventually confessed. They lied at
Yeah.
first, and then they kind of came around to sort of confessing. And she had it all on her cell phone text. It was really interesting.
It's amazing. It's among other things, technology that's digital, indelible evidence, and total accountability, potentially. Final word, Michael.
Headache?
Okay. We'll talk about that later, I guess. Abby?
I'm going with gag order.
Gag order. That's troubling. Accountability. That's all for us at NewsBeast. We will see you here tomorrow.